Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Julie and I currently live in New York City. I love to travel the world when I'm not working my regular 9-to-5 job, and I documented all in vlogs here on YouTube for you guys. I traveled to Colombia for the first time this summer and I absolutely fell in love with the city of Medellín. And yes, it is pronounced Medellín by locals, not Medellín. Medellín is actually part of the Antioquia province and is the second largest city in the country, right behind the capital of Bogota. Colombia is definitely climbing up the popularity ranks when it comes to tourism nowadays. However, it's still not as popular yet as some other Latin American countries such as Costa Rica or Mexico. I think a lot of people still have this negative stigma in their heads about Colombia's notorious past, and that really prevents them from going. However, I do want to let you guys know that it has drastically transformed over the last few decades and definitely deserves to be explored. Medellín, for example, is a booming metropolitan city with one of the best transportation systems in the world, and it's also nicknamed as the City of Eternal Spring because of its super mild, idyllic temperature year-round, and of course for its 10-day annual flower festival. So if you plan on coming to Medellín and you want some helpful information on what to expect, then this video is for you. I was only there for 4 days, but I did do a lot of research before I went and I learned a lot about Medellín while I was there. So without further ado, here are some basic things that you should know before going. So starting out with some basics about Medellín, the primary language that they speak is Spanish, Español. Their currency is Colombian pesos. Their population as of 2022 is approximately 4 million people. And the international airport is called Jose Maria Cordova, and it's about a 25 to 30 minute car ride into El Poblado. And I'm using El Poblado as a reference because that's where my Airbnb was, and that's where our home base was during our trip there, and it likely will be for many of you watching as well. And that Uber ride for me from the airport to El Poblado was about a $20 fee, including tolls. Moving on to my favorite thing about Medellín, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about transportation. Now, Medellín is known for its cable cars, and it's actually the first country in South America to implement cable cars, and more specifically in Medellín, it's called Metro cables. And the reason why this system was built is because if you look at Medellín's landscape, it's extremely mountainous. And something that I learned while I was there is that people that are poorer and of lower social status actually live higher up in the mountains. And if you think about it, it's the complete opposite in a lot of countries like the US and maybe other wealthy countries. Usually the richer you are, the higher you live. So it's not like that for Medellín. The richer people live down on flat land. So in order for people up in the mountains to come up and down and to have access to different opportunities, they built the cable cars so that people can transport themselves. So there are 6 cable cars in Medellín, and each ticket costs less than $1 USD to ride. I specifically took the Metro cable when I was going to Parque RV, which is a huge park all the way up in the mountains, and I took 2 cable cars, and I highly suggest that you take them when you're there because not only is it really affordable, but the views are super breathtaking. It's basically like a gondola ride, but you're actually going somewhere and you're not just doing it for tourism. Another thing that makes Medellín so amazing is their metro system. I took it once going from Parque RV to El Poblado, and it was amazing. It's super clean, it's really safe, and it's also very affordable. There are a lot of metro stations all around the city, and it does stop at a lot of destinations, so I highly suggest you take the metro. And coming from New York City, that was just multiple levels up from the New York City subway. So props to Medellín for inventing such an amazing metro system. And lastly, I want to talk about the main way that I got around the city, and that is by taking Ubers. So Ubers in Medellín are technically illegal, however, people still use it, and That's how I got around. It was really affordable. Usually a ride on average was $2 to $3 for a ride that was going maybe a couple or 4 or 5 miles really. So it was really affordable. Just don't be surprised if the Uber driver has you sit in the front, because again, it's illegal. So they don't want people of authority around, especially at the airport, knowing that they're an Uber driver. I also suggest taking Uber over taxi if maybe your Spanish isn't as fluent as you want it to be and there's sort of a language barrier. Then I suggest Uber because it's easier and you don't have to explain directions to them. Moving on to neighborhoods and where you should stay. I'm only going to talk about the neighborhoods that I went to specifically because I actually experienced them, but there are so many more neighborhoods in Medellin that I would have gone to if I had more time. So I'm gonna start out talking about where I stayed, and that is in El Poblado. And that is actually where most foreigners stay when they first visit Medellin, as well as where a lot of expats live. And it is basically like the Beverly Hills of Medellin. So it's very upscale. It has many really modern skyrise apartments. It has really luxurious malls, upscale boutiques, really nice restaurants. And the only thing to know about El Poblado is that it's not super walkable unless you're on that really lively street, because it is quite hilly. You'll end up taking Ubers more, even if it's a short distance. But other than that, there's so much to do there. And we were there a lot because of restaurants and of course our Airbnb. Another neighborhood that I went to very briefly is called Laureles. And Laureles is to the west of downtown Medellin. It's more of a quiet residential neighborhood. We were there actually just for a quick cafe break, and the cafe was like nested in between apartments, so it was really quiet and almost hard to find because of how discreet it was. I would say it has kind of a combined vibe of a local atmosphere combined with a little bit of upscaleness, and has a lot of great restaurants and a lot of diverse food. So you can find like Vietnamese food, Korean food, and it's great, and it's also super walkable. Another neighborhood I want to talk about is Envigado, and Envigado is actually where I spent a night taking a food tour. This is to the southeast of Medellin, and it spreads out over 30 square miles. And what's amazing about Envigado is that it's not considered part of the city of Medellin. It actually has its own separate government and even mayor, so it's a separate entity essentially, and it's amazing. It's a center of manufacturing. It's extremely walkable, lively. A lot of locals actually live there, unlike some of the other expat hubs that I've mentioned. And it also has a lot of really nice parks, and there's just a lot you can do there. And my food tour guide, who used to live in Envigado, told me about the Christmas lights that they have there. So every year during Christmas, it's super lit up there, and it's just very lively and fun. So next, I want to talk about the issue of safety in Medellin, which I'm sure a lot of people, if you've done a little bit of research on Medellin, you know is quite a big issue. To be completely transparent, I definitely had a little bit of a scare about 2 weeks leading up to the trip, because as I was getting ready for the trip and researching on what to do, what to eat, I came across a lot of YouTube videos and blog articles about the safety in Medellin, especially targeted towards foreigners. There are a lot of instances of robberies at gunpoint, knife point, people getting drugged, stuff like that. So it definitely spooked me out a lot, and especially being Asian, you don't see a lot of Asians in Colombia, and I definitely stand out whether I'm dressed super flashy or not. Just the way that I look definitely stands out, and people can tell I'm not a local there. So that was really scary for me. We actually purchased a dummy phone, like a non-iPhone from Amazon. I didn't even end up using it because I had some trouble getting a SIM card for it. But I did that because something that I learned is that if you have an iPhone and you have it out in Medellin, you're immediately a target, because iPhones are extremely expensive. I mean, it's expensive to me, so In Medellin, it's even more prized. My biggest tips is just to not have anything flashy out ever. If you're gonna wanna use your iPhone on the streets, maybe wait until you get to a restaurant or a mall to use it. And then don't wear anything too flashy. So if you have any nice watches, leave that at home. If you have any nice jewelry, do that too. I made sure to plan my outfits accordingly. I wore really plain things because I just didn't want to stand out. And with all of that in mind, my experience was totally fine when I was there. I didn't encounter anything dangerous, and I think it's because I really just tried to stay discreet with the way that I acted in public and the way that I dress. And another thing that I think helped is that I took a lot of tours, and usually I like to do things self-guided. I don't book a lot of tours or Airbnb experiences just because I like to do things on my own, and I vlog and whenever I travel and stuff like that. But for Medellin, I did book a few tours, and when you're with a group of people, especially with a guide who's a local, you feel more comfortable having your camera out. So I felt a little bit more protected that way. And of course, don't walk out alone or at night. I feel like as long as you follow all those protocols, you will be fine. And just so you know, Colombians are the warmest, the friendliest, the most hospitable people, and you will be safe in their care and their hands. And of course, not everybody is bad there in the world. COVID itself was a pandemic that affected the livelihoods of so many people worldwide, and especially for a place like Medellin, it definitely affected a lot of people, and that a lot of times is the reasoning behind their actions. So that's just something to think about, and just make sure that you're very cautious and that you protect yourself. Moving on to one of my favorite topics, that is comida, food. So I just made a short little list of things that you need to eat when you're there, and of course you need to have a bandeja paisa. It is kind of the national dish of Medellin, and it is basically a big plate of different foods on there, kind of like the Colombian English breakfast platter. So you've got rice, you've got a fried egg, you've got beans, you've got chicharron, which is pork rinds or pork belly, and then you've got ground beef, and then some avocados. So it's a very big hearty breakfast that'll definitely fuel you for the day. I mean, you don't just have to have it for breakfast, you can have it for lunch too. But it's amazing, and it really hits the spot. Some other things that you definitely shouldn't leave Medellin until you have are mondongo, which is an amazing soup, arepas, of course, a Colombian staple, buñuelos, and pastel de pollo, and cazuela de frijoles. So I definitely recommend trying to taste all these foods before you leave Medellin, because they were all amazing. Next, I wanted to go ahead and quickly touch on the tipping culture in Medellin. So the way that it works is fairly simple. Once you've ordered your food and you're given your total at the very end before you pay, they're gonna ask you if you wanna add a tip. If you say yes, then they add a 10% voluntary tip onto your bill. And that's it. So you don't designate like what percentage you want to tip them. It's just yes or no if you want to tip, and then 10% onto your bill. Next, I also wanted to talk about language. And as I said earlier, Spanish is the primary language spoken in Medellin. But if you're someone who's never gone to Colombia, and maybe the only Spanish-speaking country you've ever been to is Mexico, for example, I definitely suggest taking a couple weeks before your trip to kind of brush up on some basic Spanish, because people in Colombia don't always speak English, and neither should they be obligated to speak English to you. So I would definitely brush up on some Spanish. Thankfully, I'm from California, and I picked up a lot of Spanish from my friends who speak Spanish, or just from living so close to Mexico. And my boyfriend Andrew took 3 years of Spanish in college, so we both definitely knew some basics, and that definitely helped in our favor when it came to ordering food and being in Ubers and even talking to locals. I feel like I also was able to practice and improve my Spanish even just within the 1 week that I was there in Colombia. So lastly, I wanted to go ahead and talk about markets, so where you can buy groceries if you're going to be there for a longer stay, or even if you're not there for long but you want to be able to have some snacks to have back at the Airbnb or hotel. There are 2 markets, one of which I went to when I was in Medellin, and one of them is called Carulla, and it's a really nice supermarket filled with anything you can possibly need. So wine, beer, produce, pet food, anything. And then the other supermarket is called Exido. It's very, very similar. Both of them are very affordably priced, and you can find them around the city pretty easily because there are multiple locations. But what I really want to talk to you guys about is this app called Rappi. And my Airbnb host is the person that put me onto this app, and it was amazing. So one of the nights we were super tired from our full day itinerary, and we were back at the Airbnb, and we really wanted to just get some groceries because I was working remotely for a day when I was in Medellin. So I wanted to be able to just kind of cook up a quick lunch or have quick yogurts for breakfast. And my host told me about Rappi, which is basically like an Uber Eats slash Amazon slash DoorDash for South America, and it is amazing. So you can browse grocery stores on there, pet stores, restaurants, anything you want, and you can order from it. So you basically just look at the menu or the catalog or the grocery store aisles on the app, and you add them to your cart, and then you ask for them to be delivered. And what's amazing is that my groceries were delivered to me in 10 minutes, like under 10 minutes. It was amazing, and I feel like if I were living in Medellin, I would be deeply hooked with this app. So make sure you download it. It's completely free, and it comes in really clutch when you need it. So yes, Rappi. And that's it for all the basic things that I feel like you should know before you go to Medellin, Colombia. I'm sure there's plenty more that I could cover, so if you have any questions at all, please feel free to let me know in the comment box below. And if you've ever been to Medellin and you just want to share your experience to me, I would love to hear about it. And if you love watching travel vlogs and travel guides, please subscribe to my channel here, and I will make plenty more videos for you guys. Thank you again so much for watching, and I hope you all have a great day. Bye!